The cold stone walls of the Red Keep's dungeon stank of rot and silence. Eddard Stark, once Warden of the North, now lay in chains, weak, bruised, and forgotten by the city he had tried to save. His thoughts drifted between his daughters and the last time he had seen their faces. Sansa's eyes red with tears, Arya being dragged away screaming by guards. He had given up. Truly he had. After days of torture and being called traitor by the same court he had tried to serve with honor, his spirit was as broken as his leg. He had agreed to confess a lie to protect his daughters. That was all he had left. But that night, something changed. A whisper came through the dungeon's cracks, soft, urgent. Lord Stark. "Ned, can you hear me?" At first he thought it was a ghost. His mind played tricks in the dark often, but the voice returned louder now. "Lord Stark, by the gods, if you can hear me, get up. We don't have long." Ned lifted his head. His body screamed in protest, but he forced himself to crawl to the bars. A face appeared in the shadows, a boy, no older than Bran. Thin, covered in soot, but eyes sharp with purpose. "Oh, who are you?" Ned croaked. "Jory's cousin," the boy whispered. "He told me to keep watch before he died. I've waited for the right time. There's a passage, one the Targaryens used, hidden behind the cell wall. You have to move. Now." Ned stared at him, stunned. "Robert, is he?" The boy looked around nervously, then leaned in. "Not dead. Barely alive. The Queen declared him dead to take the throne for her son, but he's in the old Maester's chamber in Maegor's holdfast, hidden." Ned's blood turned cold. Cersei had lied about Robert's death. Joffrey was sitting on the throne under false claim. Rage gave him strength. His fists tightened. His honor had cost too much, but if Robert lived, then truth still had a chance. The boy handed him a blade, smuggled in a loaf of bread. "Cut your bonds. I'll guide you." With trembling hands, Ned cut the ropes that held his wrists. His legs still limped, but his will had returned. Through narrow, forgotten passages, carved deep into the Red Keep centuries ago, they moved like shadows. Rats scurried. The air grew colder. Above, the city slept, thinking Eddard Stark would confess at dawn. It took hours, but finally they reached the old Maester's wing. The guards had been changed, loyal not to the crown, but gold. A few silver dragons bought silence. Inside the dusty chamber, Ned found him. Robert Baratheon, king, hunter, warrior, lay pale and thin on a stone bed. The great bear of a man had withered. His beard was patchy, his chest covered in bandages soaked with old blood, but his eyes opened slowly as Ned entered. "About damn time, you stubborn northern bastard," Robert whispered, his voice dry and cracked. Ned dropped to his knees beside him, his eyes burning with disbelief and guilt. "You're alive." "Barely," Robert smirked. "Cersei tried to finish me after that damn boar gored me, but Pycelle had other plans. Kept me breathing, said the realm wasn't done with me." The room fell into silence for a moment. Then Robert's tone turned serious. "She took everything, Ned. My throne. My son, he's not even mine. She crowned Joffrey while I bled out, and they arrested you for trying to stop it. Gods forgive me." Ned's jaw clenched. "We still have a chance. If we can get you to the throne, speak before the court." Robert laughed bitterly, then coughed. "I can barely stand. The court bows to gold now, not truth." "But Stannis," Ned insisted, "he is your true heir. You sign the order before the court. You name him. We get you in front of the lords. You still wear the crown." Robert turned his face away. "Stannis is halfway to Dragonstone, probably raising banners. And Renly, gods know what he's doing. My kingdom is dying, Ned. Same as me." The door creaked again. The boy returned, breathless. "We have to move. They're looking for you." "The confession's due by sunrise." Ned stood, gripping his sword. "Then we go now. I won't let your death become her victory." Robert groaned as he tried to sit up. I knew I could count on you, even at the end. No, Ned said firmly as he helped Robert stand. This isn't the end, not yet. The stone corridors of the Red Keep groaned under the weight of secrets. Every flickering torch seemed to threaten betrayal. Eddard Stark moved cautiously, half carrying, half supporting the barely standing Robert Baratheon, while the boy named Aaron led them deeper into the hidden passageways. Robert wheezed with every step, clutching his ribs. Blood still seeped from beneath his tunic. "Never thought I'd be sneaking through my own damn castle like a rat," he muttered. "Is this what we've come to, Ned?" Ned didn't answer. His eyes remained cold and focused. Every second mattered. Every breath was stolen time. "We're close to the old dragon crypt," Aaron whispered. "No guards go there. Too many ghosts. We rest there. Then we reach the tower near the Hand Solar. There's a lift that can take us to the courtyard. If we time it right, we can—" He stopped short. A sound. Footsteps. Boots on stone, soft but firm. Not patrols. Not drunken guards. "Hide!" Ned whispered sharply, pushing Robert behind a broken pillar. He crouched beside him, drawing the small blade from his belt. Aaron disappeared into the shadows, almost too skilled for a boy his age. The footsteps grew louder, then paused. A voice rang out, soft, feminine, familiar. "I know you're here, Lord Stark." Ned's grip tightened on his blade. Cersei. She stepped into view slowly, clad in black and gold. No crown, no fanfare, just her and two cloaked men behind her. The way she held herself, calm, confident, Ned could tell she already knew more than she should have. "I warned you not to play the game," she said, turning slowly as if speaking to the walls. "You're too honest, too slow. Honor doesn't win wars." "I'll take her now," Robert growled behind his teeth. Ned held him back. "She's not alone. It's a trap." Cersei kept speaking. "You think freeing him changes anything? The realm believes he's dead. The lords have bent the knee to Joffrey. Renly's already declared himself king in the south. Your truth is a whisper in a storm." Robert started coughing again, blood spitting from his mouth. It echoed through the chamber. Cersei turned sharply. She smiled faintly. "So, he is with you." She didn't call for her men to attack. She simply stood there, as if daring Ned to come out. Ned stood slowly, not with fear but with purpose. "Let's end this," he said, stepping into view, sword drawn. Robert stumbled forward too, leaning against the wall. "Look at you, still playing queen while the realm burns." Cersei's expression flickered, just for a second, then it returned to coldness. "I gave you every chance, Robert," she said. "You wasted it. You wasted me. You poisoned me," he spat. "You were already dying," she replied. "Drunk, weak, whoring your way through the kingdom. You left the ruling to others." Ned stepped between them. "This ends tonight, Cersei. You say the lords bend the knee to a lie, then let them hear the truth. From the king himself." Cersei raised her chin. "You think they'll believe? A half-dead drunk crawling out of a crypt?" Robert laughed bitterly. "They'll believe the seal of the king. They'll believe my word when I name my heir, not your bastard." That stung her. He saw it in her eyes. She stepped back. Her guards didn't move. She didn't give the order. Instead, she whispered, "You'll regret this." Then she vanished into the darkness. Robert slumped back against the wall. "She won't stop. You know that, Ned." Ned helped him to his feet again. "Then we don't stop either." By dawn, they reached the edge of the courtyard. A hidden lift, normally used by servants, waited in silence. Aaron signaled the all-clear. The castle still slept, unaware that its king was alive. As the lift rose slowly, Robert looked across the towers of King's Landing. So much blood spilled. For what? A boy on a throne of lies? Ned didn't answer. He looked ahead, to the Tower of the Hand. The council chamber would be filling soon. Lords, knights, maesters, If Robert could speak before them just once, it might be enough. But somewhere behind them, Cersei was already planning her next move, and she would not fail again. The lift creaked to a halt just below the Tower of the Hand. The sky was still dark, but hints of light began bleeding over the rooftops of King's Landing. Morning was near. So was the moment that would decide the future of the Seven Kingdoms. Ned helped Robert off the platform and into the narrow hall that led to the back of the council chambers. Aaron scouted ahead, his footsteps like whispers on stone. Inside, voices were already rising. "The king will not attend," Pycelle was saying. "His Grace Joffrey has declared a new small council. We should proceed with the confession." "No," came a sharper voice. "Varys, we must tread carefully." The North watches. The Vale watches. If we execute Eddard Stark unjustly, we risk more than just a rebellion. Rebellion? That was Littlefinger, smooth as ever. "Let the wolves howl. They'll fall in line once their lord bends the knee." The door to the chamber burst open, and for the first time in weeks, the council saw him. Robert Baratheon, pale, bleeding, barely standing, but very much alive. The room froze. Pycelle dropped his scroll. Varys's mouth parted in genuine surprise. Littlefinger blinked once, calculating. Only one person spoke. "No," said Cersei, who had already arrived ahead of them, standing near the throne with Joffrey at her side. "This is treason. That is not the king." Robert limped forward. "I am the king, woman. Until I'm dead and buried. You should have made sure of both." Joffrey's face twisted into confusion. What is this?" "Mother, you said—" "He's dying," Cersei said quickly. "He's mad. He doesn't know what he's saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying." Robert's voice strengthened now. He pulled from his coat a blood-stained scroll, the royal seal intact. "This is my royal decree, signed in my own hand, witnessed by my hand of the king, naming Stannis Baratheon as heir to the Iron Throne." Littlefinger stepped forward. "And what of Joffrey?" "The boy has already taken the crown." Robert turned to him, eyes burning. "He's not my son." The room shook under the weight of that sentence. "I saw it with my own eyes," Ned said. "The line of black-haired Baratheons ends with your other children. These blonde-haired boys are Jaime Lannisters, not Roberts." "No," Joffrey shouted, his voice high with panic. "He's lying. He's trying to steal my crown." Pycelle trembled where he stood. This is madness." "No," Varys said quietly. "This is truth." Cersei moved suddenly, pulling a blade from beneath her cloak. She lunged at Robert, but Ned stepped in front of him, blade drawn. Steel met steel. The clash rang out through the chamber. Guards stormed in, half drawing swords, half unsure who to protect. "Stand down!" shouted Ned. "No one moves unless they want blood in this room." Cersei hissed like a wildcat. "You'll die for this, both of you." Robert stared at her with the last of his strength. "You were my greatest mistake." She was dragged back by one of her own Kingsguard, Sir Barristan Selmy, face tight with shame. "I serve the king," he said simply, "and the true king stands before me." More guards lowered their weapons, but not all. The hound stood by Joffrey, unmoving. "Littlefinger?" He just smiled and stepped back, always watching, always planning. Robert stumbled to the high seat but did not sit. "My lords," he rasped, "I have failed you as king. I was weak. I let the vipers take my court. But today I take one last act of justice." He held up the decree. "Stannis Baratheon is to rule, as is his right by blood." Then he turned to Ned. "You will ride to Dragonstone. Deliver this to him. Tell him the time has come." Ned hesitated. "I won't leave you." Robert gave him a tired smile. "You must. I won't last long." But truth may still live. Behind them, Joffrey began to scream. "This is treason. I am king, I am—" But no one listened. The council had seen the truth with their own eyes, and truth once seen could not be buried again. As the sun finally broke the horizon, a new war was already brewing. And in the silence between heartbeats, Ned Stark realized one thing: King's Landing would not survive what came next. The city buzzed with whispers before the sun had fully risen. "The king lives. Stannis has been named heir. The boy king is a bastard. The queen tried to kill. Robert in the council chamber. Rumors in King's Landing didn't need truth. They only needed sound. But this time they carried weight. This time they were true. Ned stood at the ramparts of the Tower of the Hand, watching the city stretch beneath him. His heart was heavy. He should have felt victory. Robert had spoken, the council had heard, and Stannis would be called. Yet all he felt was the deep, gnawing pressure of what would follow. Robert lay in a guarded chamber now, surrounded by loyal men. Pycelle had been silenced. Varys had vanished. Not surprising. Littlefinger had vanished too, but that was concerning. And Cersei had not screamed. She had not begged. She had simply stared at them, lips pressed tight, like a lioness cornered, but never afraid. That haunted him more than anything. A knock came at the door. It creaked open, and Ser Barristan stepped in, his face pale. "He's asking for you," he said. Ned turned at once and followed. Inside, Robert Baratheon looked worse. His skin was clammy, his breathing shallow. The effort of standing and speaking at the council had taken what little strength remained in him. Maesters surrounded him, applying leeches and herbs, but they all knew the king's body was broken beyond saving. Robert waved them away as Ned entered. "I always thought I'd die with a sword in my hand," he muttered. "On the battlefield. Not bleeding out in my own damn castle." "You were poisoned," Ned said quietly. Robert nodded. "She didn't have the courage to finish it herself. Coward, but clever." "You still have time," Ned insisted. "You can summon more lords, declare before them again. We can have Stannis ride in under banners. The realm will follow you." Robert gave him a look, one that said, "You know better than that." "They won't follow Stannis," he said. "He's too cold. No smiles, no wine. No love for the small folk. He'll rule, aye, but like a blade rules a throat. He's your rightful heir. Aye, and I'll name him again if I live another day." Ned frowned. "If—" Robert gave a bitter laugh, then fell into a coughing fit. Blood stained the edge of the cloth in his hand. "I won't see next moon, Ned, you know it." Silence hung heavy in the chamber. "Then we have to act now," Ned said. "Cersei isn't finished. She's already planning something. I can feel it. She won't let the boy give up the throne without a war." Robert nodded slowly, then reached beneath his tunic and pulled out a thick, leather-wrapped scroll. His seal, his name, the order declaring Stannis the heir. "Take it," he said. "Ride for Dragonstone. Deliver it yourself. He won't trust a raven. He might not even trust you, but he'll read my words. He'll believe that much." Ned took it, holding it like a sword, like it weighed the same. "I'll leave at first light," he said. Robert stared out the window toward the dark sky, lightening with dawn. "We were never meant for peace, Ned. You and I, we were wolves and stags, born for war." "You wanted peace," Ned reminded him. You tried to make it last." Robert gave a soft, tired smile. "Aye, I tried, but peace is fragile. And when you leave it in the hands of Lannisters, it shatters." He turned back to Ned. "Be careful. The game's changed now. With me alive, they'll be desperate, and desperate lions are the most dangerous kind." Ned bowed his head. "I'll return with Stannis, and the realm will know the truth." Robert's eyes softened. "Make sure the realm survives long enough to hear it." Later that night, Ned met Arya in secret. She had been hiding in the city with Syrio Forel's help, a shadow in the streets. Sansa remained trapped in the Red Keep, watched by Cersei's guards. "I want to come with you," Arya said, eyes fierce. Ned shook his head. "It's not safe. You'll go north."
"To your mother."
"To Robb. I'm not a child." "No," Ned said softly. "But you're still my daughter." He hugged her tight, whispering a promise. "We will be a family again. I swear it." As Arya disappeared into the night with trusted men, Ned mounted his horse quietly. In his hand the sealed decree, on his shoulders the weight of the realm. He did not know that at that very hour, in the depths of the Red Keep, Cersei Lannister was already holding court in the shadows, not with lords, but with killers, and the name on her lips was Eddard Stark. The road out of King's Landing was still cloaked in fog when Eddard Stark rode through the eastern gate. He wore a simple cloak, his house sigil hidden, his sword concealed beneath his saddle. The city guards let him pass, unaware of who he truly was, or what he carried in his satchel. Behind him, the city seemed to breathe with secrets, and within its walls, something dark had already begun to move. Cersei Lannister sat in a cold chamber beneath the Red Keep, not far from the Black Cells. The place stank of mildew and burnt oil. She had chosen it for a reason. It reminded her of the dirt the world was made of what real power looked like when stripped of gold and glory. Across from her stood two cloaked men, one with a thin smile and greedy eyes, Petter Baelish, the other, silent as death, Sir Meryn Trant. "They believe the king will die quietly," Cersei said, "and they believe the North will ride south under banners of justice. But this realm doesn't belong to men like Eddard Stark. It belongs to those who know how to take it." Baelish bowed slightly. "You've always known what must be done, my queen." Cersei's eyes glittered with cold fire. "Stark rides to Dragonstone tonight. He won't make it." "And Robert?" Trant finally asked. She didn't answer at first. "Then he's dying. The poison will finish what the boar started. Let the people mourn a king. I'll crown a god." Eddard's horse moved steadily down the Rose Road, hooves echoing in the early dawn. He was alone by choice. The fewer who knew of his mission, the better. Iron, the boy who had helped him escape, had been sent to Riverrun with a message for Catelyn. Arya was already northbound with two of Ned's old guards. Sansa, he couldn't think of her now, not yet. The scroll in his satchel felt like it was burning a hole through the leather. Robert's seal, his words, his final act of justice. If Ned reached Stannis and rallied the lords, they might yet stop a war. But just past a bend near the God's Eye, the wind changed. Something felt wrong. He slowed his horse. That's when the arrow struck. It embedded in the tree next to his head with a thunk, sharp, fast, and silent. Ned drew his sword just as the second arrow flew, this one catching his horse in the shoulder. The beast reared and screamed, crashing sideways. Ned rolled free, his sword scraping stone as he hit the ground. From the trees, 3 men appeared. Black cloaks. No sigils, no banners, just killers. "Stark!" one of them hissed. "The Queen sends her regards." Ned didn't speak. His legs still ached from the dungeons, but adrenaline drowned the pain. He raised his blade as the first man charged. Steel met steel. The first blow nearly knocked him off balance, but he caught the second assassin's wrist mid-swing and drove his sword through the man's gut. Hot blood splashed against his cloak. The second came in with a dagger. Ned twisted, letting the blade graze his ribs, then slammed his hilt into the man's face. Teeth scattered across the ground as the assassin dropped. The third, faster, quieter, slashed at Ned's back. He cried out, spun, and cut low, sweeping the man's legs. They both crashed to the dirt, wrestling for control of the knife. Ned's hands closed around the man's throat. He squeezed until the body stilled. It was over in moments, but Ned was bleeding. His horse lay dying beside the road, and the scroll, the precious scroll, was gone. He searched the dirt desperately, flipping bodies, checking saddlebags, turning over every stone. Nothing. Then, from the trees, a figure emerged slowly, Littlefinger, unarmed, calm, smiling like a man who had just watched a play unfold exactly as he wrote it. "You should travel with more friends, Lord Stark," he said. "Assassins rarely play fair." Ned raised his sword again, wobbling slightly. You planned this." Baelish held up the scroll. "Robert's decree." "Planned?" "No, guided, perhaps. Influence is a subtle thing. A word here, a gold piece there. I never meant for you to die, Ned. Truly. Then why take the scroll?" "Because it's dangerous," Littlefinger said simply. "If it reaches Stannis, the realm burns. You know this. It's the truth." Littlefinger shrugged. "Truth is a sword. And right now, the realm is full of children swinging blades they don't understand. You'll kill thousands to protect a lie." Ned spat. "No," Baelish said, stepping closer. "I'll save thousands by controlling the fire before it spreads. Let the boy rule. Let the game continue. At least for now." "You're mad, and you're bleeding," Baelish said with a smile. Then he dropped the scroll into the nearby stream. The current took it in seconds. Ned screamed and rushed him, but Littlefinger vanished into the trees before his blade could find flesh. And just like that, the last copy of Robert's words, his will, his truth, was gone. Ned dropped to his knees beside the water, soaked and shivering. He had left the city with hope. He was now alone, wounded and hunted. And war, true war, was no longer coming. It had already begun. The raven flew fast, cutting across the sky above the neck, its black wings gliding on cold winds as it carried news too heavy for parchment. Inside the message, written in Ned Stark's hand before his ambush, were words that could split the realm in two. By the time the bird reached Winterfell, Robb Stark had already begun sharpening steel. The hall was silent as Maester Luwin read the letter aloud, his voice trembling by the end. "Father named Stannis as the heir," Robb said quietly, almost to himself. "Joffrey is a bastard born of incest. And the Queen tried to kill the king before the truth could be heard." Luwin nodded gravely. "Your Lord Father is riding for Dragonstone? If he is still alive." Catelyn sat in the corner of the room, her eyes rimmed red. "We waited too long. I should have brought the girls home the moment he was taken. Now he's hunted, and we have no way of knowing if he still draws breath." "We have to march," Robb said, standing abruptly. "The Lannisters have shown their hand. If we wait, they'll strike at us next." Maester Luwin hesitated. "And if your father returns with Stannis at his side?" "Then we meet them on the road," Robb said. "With banners of the north behind us." Catelyn looked up. "And if he doesn't return?" Robb's eyes didn't waver. "Then we raise our swords, and we take justice for ourselves." By nightfall, ravens had flown from Winterfell to every northern holdfast. Bear Island, White Harbour, Last Hearth. The banners were called. The wolves were waking. Far to the south, Cersei Lannister stood on the steps of the great sept of Baelor, her face veiled in mourning black. Robert Baratheon, king of the Seven Kingdoms, had been declared dead. His body, wrapped in cloth and gold, lay inside a stone tomb. Only a few had seen the corpse, and none dared speak of the bruises around the neck or the color of the lips. The people wept for their king. Cersei wept for power. She held Joffrey's hand tightly as the High Septon spoke false words. She had orchestrated every moment. The false funeral, the discovery of Robert's final wish naming Joffrey his heir, and the swift, bloodless removal of anyone who questioned it. Varys had vanished. Pycelle had been silenced. Sir Barristan had been stripped of command for failing to protect the king. The court was hers now. "Mother," Joffrey whispered as they stood before the gathered lords. "Do they fear me yet?" Cersei looked down at him, brushing a blonde curl from his brow. "They will, soon." Behind them, the crowd of nobles watched in silence. Some bowed, some smiled, but none trusted, not truly. Lord Tywin had already begun mustering the Lannister forces at Casterly Rock. Jaime commanded a host along the Riverlands, burning everything Tully and Stark. War was already moving. The lions had roared, and now they would hunt. Ned Stark woke in a farmhouse 2 days' ride from the ambush. His ribs burned, and his shoulder had been stitched tight by a kindly old woman who hadn't asked his name. She simply called him Old Soldier and said nothing about the sword by his bed. He rose slowly, pain gripping his body like a vice. His horse was gone, his supplies stolen, and worst of all, Robert's decree was lost. The realm now had no proof of Joffrey's illegitimacy, no way to unite the lords behind Stannis. It was all gone, but not hope. Ned left before dawn, heading east, avoiding the roads. If he couldn't reach Stannis as a noble, he'd reach him as a ghost, as a whisper the Queen couldn't silence. If he could get to Dragonstone alive, he could still speak. He could still fight, because Robert had spoken the truth before dying. And truth didn't need scrolls. It needed men. Meanwhile, on the walls of River Run, Catelyn Stark watched the moon rise as her brother Edmure returned from a skirmish near the Golden Tooth. "The Lannisters burned 3 villages," he said bitterly. "They're pushing east, testing our borders." Catelyn's jaw tightened. "Let them push. They'll find steel waiting." Her thoughts were on Robb, on the north, on the future they had all tried to protect, and the kingdom now hanging by a thread. "They killed my husband's honor," she said coldly. "They won't kill our house." And across the sea, on a rocky island fortress surrounded by storm and flame, Stannis Baratheon read a letter delivered by a ragged knight on a bloodied horse. He read it once, then twice. He said nothing for a long time. Then he turned to his wife and to the Red Priestess, who stood silently behind her. "They killed my brother," he said. "They crowned a lie." He looked out the window to the black waves crashing below. "Then I will crown fire." The sea around Dragonstone was always violent, but that night it roared like a beast awakened. Thunder cracked overhead, lightning lit the sky, and waves slammed against the castle walls as if the gods themselves were pounding to be let in. Stannis Baratheon stood on the highest balcony, cloaked in black and red, his jaw tight, fists clenched at his sides. The scroll in his hand, soaked from rain, blood-streaked from the rider who had delivered it, fluttered in the wind, but he didn't let it go. It was Robert's last will, not the original sealed decree, but a copy, written in Ned Stark's hand, full of truth and fury. "Joffrey is not my son. Cersei has committed treason. Stannis is the rightful heir." There were no courtly words, no politeness, just the truth, raw and sharp. "I should have burned the capital when I had the chance," Stannis muttered. Behind him, Sir Davos Seaworth stepped forward, his cloak dripping wet. "We still can, my lord. Just say the word." Stannis turned, eyes burning. "They stole my brother's throne, poisoned his body, slandered my name, and now they parade that blonde bastard like a lion cub king. They think the realm is theirs." He raised the letter. "This is war. It always was." From the shadows, Melisandre stepped forward, her red robes dry despite the rain. "The flames showed me," she said, voice soft but full of power. "The stag would fall and fire would rise. You are the Lord's chosen. Lightbringer will burn through the lie." Stannis didn't blink. "Then let fire speak." That night ravens flew from Dragonstone, hundreds of them. Each one carried the same message. Stannis Baratheon, by the will of King Robert, is rightful heir to the Iron Throne. All loyal men must rally to Dragonstone. And with those ravens, he sent ships, fast ones, to the Stormlands, to the Vale, even to the Reach, where old grudges still slept. But not all ships carried messages. Some carried fire. In King's Landing, Cersei sat in the royal chamber, staring at the flickering candlelight. News had reached her of the Ravenstorm. Every corner of the realm had heard Stannis's claim. It wasn't enough to silence the truth anymore. Now she had to bury it in blood and fire. Joffrey paced in front of her, furious. "He's a traitor. He's just jealous. We should send the army to burn Dragonstone." Cersei didn't look at him. "He won't wait," she said quietly. "Stannis doesn't bluff. He doesn't negotiate. He strikes. But we have the crown, we have gold, Joffrey. And gold cannot stop a sword when it's pressed to your throat." She stood and poured herself wine. Her hand trembled slightly. She hated that. "Where is Tywin?" she asked Sir Kevan. "Why hasn't he marched?" "He's gathering his full strength," Kevan replied. "Renly too has taken banners in the south. They may clash before either reaches us. Then we need a message," she said coldly. "Something that makes the realm fear defiance. What do you propose?" Cersei didn't answer with words. She walked to the balcony, looking down at the courtyard. There, Sansa Stark was being paraded before the people, wearing a crown of flowers, a fake smile painted across her face. They called her the king's bride now, a symbol of peace. Cersei's lips curved into a thin smile. "Let the North see what happens when they defy the throne." Kevin's eyes widened. "You want to kill her?" "No," she said. "Not yet. First, we bleed her spirit." At sea, just off the coast of Blackwater Bay, a small Lannister fleet patrolled the narrow waters, keeping watch for pirates and smugglers. They didn't see the fire coming until it was too late. From the mist, black sails appeared, bearing the crowned stag of House Baratheon. No warning, no mercy. The Dragonstone fleet set their ships ablaze with wildfire barrels, the sea turning green and gold. Screams echoed across the waves as sailors dove into the burning tide. The message was clear. Dragonstone would not kneel. Stannis had declared war, and fire had answered. In the Riverlands, Robb Stark stood in armor for the first time. Before him, 10,000 men kneeled, swords drawn. Behind him, the banners of the North and Tully flew side by side. Great John Umber, Rose Bolton, Howland Reed. The old wolves had come, and they were hungry for blood. We ride for River Run first, Robb said. We free the Riverlands. Then we march south. And King's Landing? Asked Gretchen. Robb's jaw tightened. We take it. Or we burn it, they roared their approval. But Catelyn stood in the shadows, watching her son. His eyes had grown colder, his voice sharper. The boy was gone. A king now stood in his place. And somewhere in the wild, moving through forgotten paths and sleeping in caves, Eddard Stark pressed forward. His wounds ached. His sword was dull, but his heart still burned with purpose. He didn't know the scroll was gone. He didn't know war had begun, but he felt it. In the wind, in the silence of the trees, in the way the birds flew fast and low, as if fleeing something terrible. He would reach Dragonstone, or die trying, because now the war wasn't about thrones. It was about truth, and truth would not die quietly. The shores of Dragonstone were wrapped in mist when Eddard Stark arrived, hunched on a stolen horse, bleeding beneath his furs, barely clinging to the saddle. The sentries moved toward him, weapons raised, but he didn't flinch. He slid from his horse, collapsed into the sand, and forced out a single name, Stannis. They brought him inside under watch, suspicious and cautious. The guards didn't recognize the half-dead man. They dragged up the stone steps. But Stannis Baratheon did. He stood at the top of the keep, staring down with tired eyes, a scroll in his hand and war on his mind. When he saw Ned, his expression didn't change. But something in his stance shifted. "Bring him to me," he said. Within the hour, Ned lay on a simple bed near the war table, stitched and cleaned by Dragonstone's Maester. His breath was shallow, but he was alive. And when his eyes finally opened, he saw the flickering flame of a single candle. "And Stannis, you came after all," Stannis said. Ned tried to sit, but his ribs screamed. "Robert is dead. I know. They've crowned Joffrey. The Lannisters own the city. Cersei has Sansa. Arya is gone. Robb rides south," Stannis replied. "The Riverlands are in open rebellion. The Reach and Stormlands stand divided. The Vale hides behind neutrality. And Renly," he paused, voice sharpening. "Renly named himself king." Ned blinked. "What?" He gathered knights with smiles and silk banners. "Claims popularity makes him worthy," Stannis scoffed. "The realm plays at crowns while truth lies bleeding in the dirt." Ned coughed, the pain curling through his chest. "You're the rightful heir." "Robert said it himself." Stannis studied him. "I have the letter. I sent ravens." They laugh. "Say the seal is forged. That Ned Stark speaks for the North, not the king." "I saw him sign it," Ned whispered. "With his own hand." "I watched. That won't matter if I lose," Stannis said. "Truth has no throne without swords to defend it." He turned and faced the war table, carved in the shape of Westeros. Flames flickered across the painted hills and valleys, the glow of fire lighting up the wooden capital. "There is no middle path, Ned," he said. "I sail for King's Landing within a fortnight. If I wait, Renly gathers more men. If I move too soon, I may be crushed." "Then don't move alone," Ned said, his voice hoarse. "Call Robb, join your claim with his. Let the North fight beside you." Stannis frowned. "He calls himself king in the North. That is treason. He calls himself a son who never saw justice for his father," Ned said, voice cracking. "He doesn't want the South." "He wants vengeance." Stannis was silent for a long moment. "Then, vengeance I can use." In King's Landing, smoke rose from the sprawl of the city. Riots had begun in Flea Bottom. The price of bread had tripled. The gold cloaks beat protesters in the street. No one cheered Joffrey anymore. They feared him. But fear was thinning. Inside the Red Keep, Cersei Lannister walked the halls like a queen, with poisoned blood in her veins. She had sent ravens to Tywin, demanded more troops. Gold was no longer enough. She visited Sansa less now. There was nothing left to break. The girl sat quiet, eyes hollow, her body present, her spirit long gone. And still no word of Stannis. Until the Raven arrived. He sails from Dragonstone, with fire and steel. "You have one chance to surrender the city." Cersei read it once, then set it aflame. "Let him come," she said. The ships arrived in the black of night, silent as ghosts, bearing flaming stags and no banners. Dragonstone's fleet tore through the Blackwater, scattering what remained of the Lannister navy. Stannis didn't wait. He landed with 10,000 men. No ceremony, no speeches, just war. The gates of King's Landing were closed before dawn. Fires had already started in the outer districts. The common folk screamed in the streets as wildfire exploded near the walls. Stannis' army battered the gates, while his archers turned the sky green with flame. Inside, Cersei gathered the small council, what remained of it. Her face pale, her voice cold. "They want a king," she hissed. "Then let them choke on fire." Joffrey hid in his chambers. The boy who had once smirked with arrogance now shook behind locked doors. And somewhere in the dark, Varys moved again, whispering to the shadows, sending children into the tunnels, planting secrets like seeds in the earth. When the gates finally broke, the city screamed. Stannis marched in, sword drawn. By his side rode Ser Davos and his loyal bannermen. His men clashed with gold cloaks who no longer knew who they served. By midday, the throne room burned. Cersei stood alone at the foot of the Iron Throne, wine in one hand, dagger in the other. Joffrey was dead, poisoned by his own cupbearer in the chaos. Sansa was gone, escaped through a tunnel Varys had revealed at the last hour, and Eddard Stark, wounded and limping, stepped into the hall beside Stannis. Their eyes met. Cersei looked at them both. "Finish it." "Then," she said. Stannis didn't hesitate. She died with a sneer on her lips. In the days that followed, the throne was not melted, but it might as well have been. Stannis sat coldly, ruling without joy. The realm bent knee, not out of love, but fear and truth. Robb Stark returned to the north, not as king, but as warden, with a new treaty. And with honor restored, Eddard Stark rode north again, scarred, tired but alive. The war had not ended the lies, but it had proven the truth. And in the end, that was enough.